What's up guys, this is Zach from Luma Productions, and today we're going to be talking about how to add your logo to this shot. So why would you want to do something like this? Arguably the most important part of video is the emotion you convey. What are you trying to get your audience to feel? If you take an opening or establishing shot and put your logo on top of it, there's nothing wrong with that, but it runs the risk of boring your audience. Finding a way to spice things up and grab their attention is a great way to set yourself apart, and incorporating your text or logo into the world of your scene is a great way to do that. With this example specifically, there's a lot to look at. The water makes the logo darker when the waves roll over it. At the top, the opacity starts to fall off and it looks like it's getting buried by the sand, and the bottom part of the logo actually distorts as the waves roll over it like it would if it was underwater. If you want to follow along with the assets I'm using or use this shot for your own video, I'll include links below to purchase this shot, as well as a free download link to the version of the logo I'll be using. So, let's get started. I'm going to be doing my compositing here in After Effects. If you have a different software, all these principles should still apply, but some of the effects might go by a different name, which, if that's the case, you should be able to run a quick Google search to find the parallel effect in your program. So, we'll bring in our beat shot as well as the logo. And the first thing you'll want to do is create a new composition from the beat shot. Once your shot is in place, we're going to go into the effects panel and type 3D camera tracker to find that effect and apply it to the shot. This effect can be pretty time intensive, and I'm doing this in 4K, so it'll take a bit longer than if you're doing this in HD, but no matter your composition size, you'll still need to let it run for a minute. Once the effect is done solving the camera, you should have a series of 3D points tracked into your shot. If you can't see them at first, have your clip selected and go into the Effect Controls panel and select the 3D camera tracker. They should show up at that point. Go to the end of your clip and we're going to hover over the dots on screen until you find a circle that looks like it's flat to the rest of your image. Right-click and select Create Solid and Camera. Select the solid, then head over to your project panel, grab the logo, then drag it over the solid holding the Option key on Mac or Alt on PC, and release. With that done, your logo should now exist in the same space as the rest of your shot. If you select the layer in your timeline panel, it should give you X, Y, and Z handles you can move the solid around with. We're going to only be using the X and Y handles to move the logo into the position where we want it. You'll want to keep checking the front of your shot as well, since that will be significantly more zoomed in than the back. We can also scale the layer by pressing S to the appropriate size, and if you're looking to rotate it, you can do that as well by pressing R. As I was placing my logo here, I really wanted to sell the interaction of the logo in 3D without sacrificing overall legibility, so I chose to keep Luma predominantly in the sand and Productions predominantly in the water. Go ahead and watch through the clip to make sure the logo is where you'll want it to be. It's also helpful to know how long the final shot you'll end up using is, so you can focus in on the best selection for your final use. If you're only using 2 or 3 seconds of the clip at the end, your fine-tuning is going to look a lot different than if you're using the shot for 10 seconds. Once you feel good about the placement of your logo, it's time to start dialing in the details and blending it. Duplicate the camera, the logo, and the beat shot. Select all the duplicated layers and pre-compose them, which you can do by going to Layer, then selecting Pre-compose. Name it Logo Mask, then double-click it to open it up. Once you're inside, pre-compose the beat shot one more time, naming it Distortion Map, and double-click that to open it up. The first thing you'll want to do is pay attention to the color of the water. We'll be using this layer to add a rolling distortion effect to the logo as the waves come in, so we'll need some way to separate the water from the sand. In watching the shot, I'm seeing a bit of green and yellow as the water rolls up, whereas the sand looks a bit warmer in more of a red tone. So we'll be isolating these cooler colors in the water for our distortion. The first step to do that is to create a mask to isolate the water. Given that the shore isn't clearly defined, your line doesn't need to be either. Feather the mask by something like 150. You can animate the mask path to help keep it in place. Next, we're going to go into the effects panel and grab the hue saturation effect. We're going to help After Effects find the wave roll-off here by increasing the saturation significantly and turning it green. So in the channel control, set the parameters to yellow. Next, we're going to spike the saturation to something like 90, then start dialing in the specific channel range. We're definitely focused on the area where green and yellow merge together. Then we can feather the left side out until we're clearly hitting mostly the water while leaving the sand untouched. Once you're pretty close, head over to the yellow hue and set that to 90 degrees. That will make the yellow look more green, which will help with the displacement effect in the next few steps. Once the color is set, you can go back and finalize the feather on the channel range. After you have a clearer picture of the color adjustment, you can go back and do a bit more of an adjustment to the mask path. Once you're finished there, let's head back to our logo mask pre-comp. Go ahead and turn off your distortion map effect, then create an adjustment layer. The order of the clips here doesn't matter too much, but we do need to make sure that the logo is underneath the adjustment layer. Head over to the effects panel again and find the displacement map effect and add it to your adjustment layer. Set the displacement map to your distortion map pre-comp. Then, set both the horizontal and vertical displacement to green with a value of about 30. You can dial in these settings to what works best for you, but I found 30 was a good middle ground in keeping it noticeable without being too extreme. Next, we're going to add the effect Roughen Edges to the logo. Set the border to 5 and the scale to 50. By adding that effect, it helps the edges to feel like it blends into the sand better. It's a subtle effect, but helps sell the idea your logo is in the sand to your viewer. With that done, we'll head back to our main comp again. We'll duplicate the beach footage, make sure it's directly underneath the logo mask pre-comp, then go into your track matte on the beach footage and set it to alpha matte. At this point, we're done with the old logo, so we can go ahead and delete that. Next, head into the effects panel and add the curves effect to the beach footage. We're going to take the RGB line and drag it down a little bit past the halfway point. Then we'll change the transfer mode to overlay. That's going to help us feel like the logo has been burned or painted into the sand. So far, it's looking pretty good. One of the things I'm not a big fan of is that Luma and Productions appear to be the same color even though they're in different parts of the environment. So we're going to separate those out next. We're going to draw a mask around Luma. Animate this mask to keep Luma and Productions separate, with Luma staying on screen. Then let's duplicate the logo mask and the masked out beach shot. Invert your mask on the new beach shot, so this layer should only have Productions on it. Let's go into that same curves you already have on the beach shot, and we're going to go into the blue channel, raise the blacks about halfway, then go into the green channel and raise the blacks half as much as your blue channel. This will help give it a bit more of an underwater feel. With this in place, we're in really good shape, but the logo still feels pretty strong. You can see there's some brighter spots on the waves that we're losing, and if this were actually on the beach like this, we wouldn't be able to see as much of the logo in the drier top layer of sand. So let's duplicate our beach layer again and bring it above all our other layers. I really want to focus on retaining the highlights in the scene, which include the bright spots on the water as well as the sand. So we're going to add a tint effect to this new beach layer, then we're going to add a levels effect. We'll bring in the whites until we blow out the sand at the top and some of the highlights in the water, then bring in the blacks to crush out a lot of the other detail. What we should end up with is the water mostly black, the wet beach kind of gray, and the upper sand totally white. Let's duplicate our original beach layer one more time, bring it under the black and white beach, then set the track matte to Luma. Right away, we can see that the logo has a much more natural blend with the environment, fixing a lot of the issues I mentioned before. The top has a nice fall off, and the waves have a better sheen to them. After that, there's one more trick that I use to help blend the environments. Let's duplicate the original beach layer again, drag it to the very top of our composition. In the effects panel, find Key Light. This effect is typically used for removing things like blue and green screen, but we're going to use it to help retain detail from areas other than the beach. On the screen color, select the lightest part of the wet sand. Then we're going to set our screen gain to 80. We're getting rid of a bit too much detail now, so let's press T on our keyboard to open up our layer opacity and drop that to 50%. And with that, the logo feels like it blends in really naturally with the environment. In the clip I'm using, you may notice there's one other selling feature to convey that the logo is in fact on the beach, which is the two kids who run directly over the logo. If you're paying close attention, you may notice it feels a bit like they get lighter and darker as they run over the logo. So as a last step, you can duplicate the original beach clip one last time and manually mask the kids out as they run over the logo. This is a bit of a lengthy process, but once it's finished, it adds a great extra dimension to your shot. And with that, we're done. The big takeaways from a project like this, where you're adding elements to real-life scenes, are to analyze your shot, Pay attention to the way real-life objects look and interact in the real world so you know what to replicate on screen, and know your tool set to know how to get a specific look. If you practice those 3 things, you'll be able to put just about anything anywhere in your scene. If you guys have any questions, hit me up and I'll do my best to get back with you. I'm planning on releasing more of this kind of content on this YouTube channel, in addition to other real-life examples of projects I'm working on and some advice for businesses looking to make videos. So if any of that interests you, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. See you all in the next video. Peace!